My question for you is your lawn ready for spring? You may be thinking, Jason, I don't know if it's ready or not. I didn't do anything. Surely it's going to turn green. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you have a better looking lawn this year. Whether you're doing that for yourself, you're doing it for customers, let's get started right now. Today's video is sponsored by Graham Spray Equipment. You see my 400-gallon Graham spray rig in the background. That's what I use to spray my yards with. If you need a rig for your business, go to grahamse.com. Okay, so this is my big backyard here. This is where my kids come out here and play soccer and stuff, but I want to show you what the yard looks like. I'm actually filming this in early March, so we're not quite to spring, but the question at the beginning was, are you ready for spring? And you think, Jason, this grass looks dead. If you're from the area where you have cool season grasses, you probably look at this thinking maybe it is dead. It's not dead, it's just dormant. But look here, look at what I'm seeing here. You see there's 2 different colors there on your screen. Well, you got brown and you got little tender green shoots starting to pop up. So the first tip I want to give you on getting your yard ready for spring, or to answer is it ready for spring, is have you put down your pre-emergent yet? Now some of you might be up in Michigan or something, say, Jason, we're not got any pre-emergent down, it's buried in snow. Your timetable might be a little bit different with cool weather. And you need to understand that the timing of your pre-emergent may vary from year to year. Now here I'm in Alabama where I live, I'm gonna start spraying pre-emergent on my customers' yards about January the 2nd. Sometimes even January the 1st, I'll get out there and do a commercial property and hopefully watch a football game later that day. But on January 2nd, it's go time, because I want to get that pre-emergent down on all my customers' lawns before late February. So if you live further north and it's cooler temperatures, you could wait later. Obviously you need to wait till the snow melts. But even here where I live, and this is one tip, is it's not always the exact same year to year. On a year where we get a warm spell in February here in Alabama, you may see crabgrass already starting to germinate in February. But if it's a year where it stays cooler temperatures, then it may extend on into March for us. One tip that was shared with me, and I actually planted some of these at my house for this reason, not the only reason, I think they are actually pretty this time of year, but this is a very woody shrub with yellow flowers. It's called a Forsythia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But this shrub blooms early in the year before spring, you know, for us. But crabgrass germination typically coincides about the time with these blooms start falling off the plant. So the blooms are on the plant right now. It won't be long before they're on the ground. And by the time they're on the ground, I may already be too late for my crabgrass pre-emergent to go down. So fortunately for me, I've already applied it on this yard. I would say get it down before these things even start to bloom, and knowing that you're going to be in plenty of time in that situation. What would a round 1 application look like? We call them rounds, different treatments on the lawn. It may look something as simple as this, and this is what I'm doing for a lot of my customers. This is Resolute, which is the active ingredient prodiamine. So that's my pre-emergent. That's what I want to get down there. That's going to help knock out that crabgrass in the early stages of germinating. Basically, you could use the word prevent crabgrass. It's not technically preventing it, but you should never see it in your lawn. And this is going to do an excellent job controlling crabgrass in the lawn. I'll put a link in the description to a generic prodiamine product that you can buy online if you want to do so. Also want to add a surfactant. Now if you're just spraying the pre-emergent, there's no need for the surfactant. But if you want to use a post-emergent like this one, triplet, and it will knock out a lot of the broadleaf weeds in the yard. So I'm typically going to combine these 2 products. There's other products you can use as well. But with this post-emergent here, I want to go ahead and add that surfactant, which is going to make it more effective. Again, if I'm just using the pre-emergent, no needs for a surfactant. This does need to be watered in at some point, but it's usually not a hurry. I don't tell people to turn their sprinklers on in January. Eventually it'll rain and get watered in. But if you had a really long time without water, it might not be a bad idea to water it in. In my mind, I would think that would be more important with your fall application when the weather is significantly hotter than typically when you're applying it early in the year. Let's say your neighbor has the Forsythia bush and they're already dropping blooms all over the ground. You say, Jason, I'm too late. I missed my window. I didn't get the prodiamine down. Well, what I do in that situation, I'll still spray prodiamine, and I'll sometimes mix a quinclorac product in there. That's Quinclorac, quinclorac, and that is a post-emergent product for crabgrass. I'll put those two in there together if I've already missed my window, but ideally you want to get it down before the blooms drop on this plant. Another option, if you're late, is to use a product called Dimension, and it can also control baby crabgrass that's already germinated. The second tip I want to mention to you is to have a plan for your fertilizer. Now for me, I'm already putting out fertilizer on my yards, and I'm going to explain why. But you may say, Jason, why are you fertilizing a yard that's already brown? Well, I'm going to explain to you, but for those of you with cool season grasses, I think, my understanding, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but you have even a shorter window, because you got to wait till the ground thaws out from the cold weather, okay, and then you want to get your pre-emergent down, because it might not be very long at all before it starts getting hot again, and you want to get that down quickly before the crabgrass germinates, and then you're about to hit a peak growing season for the grass, so you don't have long before it's time to fertilize. So we need to have a plan. Now for my warm season lawns, what I do is I put out a slow release fertilizer this time of year that's really a little bit too early to fertilize. And the way this fertilizer works is it will start to release the nutrients as the weather warms. So I'm able to use that chemistry to my advantage, put it out a little bit early. But if you're using just a quick release fertilizer, then I would recommend you wait until we get some warmer temperatures and you start to see a lot more green color on this lawn, because you don't want to just put it out there, have it all watered in, have the nutrients leaking out before the grass is really able to use that. Now, there's some other videos on my channel. If you want to search Lawn Care Life fertilizer, can help you understand how much fertilizer to put, but it's going to differ on different grass types. You can see this is a 2-2-14 blend. Very little nitrogen in this. This is what I'm using on my zoysia yards and also on my centipede yards. Now on a Bermuda yard, I'm using a totally different blend. I'm using a 3808 blend, but again, it's a slow release polymer coated fertilizer. It's called Polyon by Harold's here. And when I put it out, it's gonna sit there and not release much nutrients at all until the weather starts warming. You might say, Jason, why would you not just wait till the weather warms up and then put it out? Well, that's a good question. If I was only taking care of my yard, I could do that. But taking care of hundreds of yards, I want to be able to put this out now, because spring is going to be a prime time where I'm going to be trying to control weeds. So this allows me to do this now, and then I can come back in the spring and put out a weed control application. The fertilizer does its job. I can take care of the weeds when I need to do it. So I'm just taking advantage of that to alternate the schedule to what I think is best for the lawn. You could, of course, spray the lawn and fertilize at the same time if you wanted to. The third tip is don't go crazy spraying weed killers all over your yard. You see, I see sometimes in these Facebook groups where people have grass and their lawns and got weeds, and they say, I'm gonna put this on it and this on it and this and this and this and this and this and this, and that might kill it all. You know, I was like, man, that just seems like such overkill from an expense standpoint, but also sometimes that's not exactly good for the lawn. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to take a look at this lawn, and I actually did a test this year where I sprayed only pre-emergent on part of my lawn, and other parts I used a pre and post-emergent. And I did that to see, did I really need all the post-emergents that I was putting out? So what I want you to understand is this spring transition, especially for our warm season grasses here, where we're transitioning out of winter, it's dormant, it's using a lot of energy to try to turn green, is a very susceptible time for that grass. If you're just blasting it with herbicides, it can delay the green up on the lawn. Now that happens a lot more often on a centipede yard. Oftentimes with centipede lawns, we're only using atrazine early in the year. That's actually a restricted use product, but on a Bermuda and zoysia lawn, I can be a little bit more aggressive. I don't think you have to go out there and just blanket a bunch of stuff, because you may actually be delaying the green up to try to kill just a few weeds. So again, sometimes, especially on a centipede yard, I may tell my customers, hey, listen, I know you got some weeds in your yard in the spring. What I want to do is put a fall pre-emergent out to try to minimize that as much as possible. Use atrazine early in the year. But then in the spring, I'll say, you got some weeds. I understand that. I'm not going to spray them right now. I need to wait until it turns fully green. And then when it's fully green, I can be a lot more aggressive with my application. At that point, I would use a product like Change Up, and which would do a great job at knocking out broadleaf weeds in cool season and warm season lawns. This is a bonus tip. While I'm walking, you got all this wild garlic, wild onions in your yard. Metsulfuron is a very cheap product you can use. Hard to mix in a small sprayer, but you could use Metsulfuron, or Blindside would be a great product to knock out the wild onions or the wild garlic, or this one's a big onion right here. Sometimes on a rainy day, you can just pull it up. A lot of times they break off. The fourth tip I want to give you, and this particularly applies with the Bermuda yard, but sometimes you can do it on other grasses as well, just maybe not as aggressively. But I showed you earlier in the video, the Bermuda is actually putting up tiny little leaves from the ground up. This dormant grass is not turning brown again. And you can see it here again. If I kind of part the sea here and get down there, you got a little tender grass shooting up. One thing that's going to help it turn green faster is if I will scalp the lawn. So the fourth tip here is scalp the lawn. Again, that's particularly something I do on my Bermuda yards. I'll take it as low as I can get it. My mower only goes down to 1.5 inches. I'm actually going to try to run a test this year and scalp part of the yard and not scalp the other part, and see how much faster it does green up. Because what you're doing when you're scalping it, you're allowing the sunlight to get down there and warm the roots up, and it's going to just tell the grass, hey, wake up, winter's over, start turning green. Now the risk with this is, if you scalp it and you get all that new tender growth and then we get a late freeze, boom, it's going to get zapped. Now, in a Bermuda yard, doesn't necessarily going to kill it when you do that, but that's exactly what happened to me last year. I was scalping it down, it turned green, late frost, zapped it, now I'm brown again. It eventually came back, but that is the risk you run by scalping it too early. You might want to check that 2-week forecast before you scalp it. And the last thing I want to mention on your spring tip, this is number 5, is to have a schedule, have a plan for the year. I feel like so many people are just reactionary when they're out there taking care of a lawn. We don't want to be reactionary, we want to have a plan. Now, you can react. If something happens, you get a fungus, you can put a fungicide out, something like that. But often, if you just have a good plan, know what you're doing, know what kind of grass you have, know what type of fertilizer it needs and how much, know what kind of products are going to be tolerant for that grass type, and so you got a plan. You know, we have a plan. I don't go out there and think, what am I going to do on my customers' yards this year? I have a plan for Bermuda yards. I have a plan that's slightly different for zoysia yards. I have a different plan for my centipede and St. Augustine yards. I know what I'm going to do before the year starts, and I go out there and execute the plan. Now, experience helps with that, but you can learn a lot from your own experience and from watching YouTube videos to learn from others' experience. Want to get in weed control and fertilization like me, you might check out the Weed Control and Fertilization Academy. That's over at lawncarelife.com. That's a video course that I've created to help people. A lot of them are mowing grass and they want to get into weed control and fertilization for a business. This course is for warm season grass. That year there's been a lot of people take advantage of that course and gotten great feedback from it. So that's at lawncarelife.com. I'll put some links in the description of some of the products we talked about in this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.